Hello and welcome to an exclusive hour-long programme with me, Alex Belfield, talking to a man who I've tried to get on for years. Jamie Oliver, how are you?
How are you, mate? Lovely to be here.
And it's so nice to see you because you're a personality, you're fun, you're opinionated, you're tenacious, you've got everything. You've got the beautiful wife, the kids, you've got the restaurants, you've got everything.
Thank you. I don't know how to react to that one, yeah.
It must be good being you because it's taken a while to get here and now you're in a position where you can say anything and people will listen. That's got to be great.
Yeah, it is, and it's also an awful weight, a strength and a weakness, as I always say. Biggest strength, biggest weakness, and I think it's something I try and use. I try not to say anything unless I feel it really needs to be said, and hope and pray that if I do it properly and clearly and fairly, then the British public will somehow be touched and be involved in whichever way was relevant. And certainly with school dinners and Jamie's fowl dinners with the chickens, the public have always answered in an incredibly strong, powerful way.
I think it's the fact that they grew to love you with your cheeky, chappy character. It's given you a great platform now to kind of pick and choose your causes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I never plan them. It just genuinely, organically turns into something. It's normally like a little snowball effect, and there's always something that's normally kind of dripping into the press. And actually with school dinners and Ministry of Food, there were things that were very much in the press. And I think it's a bit like going into a field that smells of cow dung. You know, you can smell it, but it only lasts for a couple of minutes, and then you kind of become numb to it. And then what I try and do is, you know, holistically get an overview of the lot. It's often about people, the stuff that I do, how people can be transformed and live better. That's generally what the stuff I've done is about. And then, you know, and I think I just think the public are quite simple, really. If you don't patronise them with rubbish, and if you give them the bare truth and you give them some possibilities of solutions, I found that the public generally are incredibly supportive, and they'll literally, I mean, if you think about it, when we did school dinners, we were told categorically there was no money, and 3 days after it broadcast they found £280 million, and then they banned rubbish in vending machines the year after, and found another £280 million for the second tranche of 3 years. You know, so and that was the public. I mean, yes, I brought it to the fore, but I mean that was actually the public that commanded that, because I imagine the phones were going ballistic.
It's amazing what a few million viewers can do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really, really important, and I'm a passionate believer that, you know, be it radio or TV or publishing, these are still incredibly important sort of premiership ways to sort of communicate with the public, and there's so much that it can do or feel like that is kind of more efficient than the internet in some respects, although we use the internet as well. So really, I think, you know, any way you do it, just get it out there.
You've got a brand new book out called The Ministry of Food. We're going to talk about that later, but let's start right at the beginning, as you as a child. Were you always tenacious? Did you always know what you wanted?
Don't really remember, really. I remember always wanting to create things and get involved in things, and I was very bad at school, didn't really get any exams, was in special needs for 5 years of secondary school, so I couldn't really blossom at school, really, but that was quite an academic school, but I did do well with anything with my hands. I was brought up to work hard for what I got. My dad was quite strict and my mum was great, and grew up in a family business, which I think if you grow up in a family business, you know, it does give you sort of like extra skills that try and help you be resourceful and clever, and you know, you have to be, if you run a family business, you have to be a can-do person, not a can't-do person. I've never really had much time for cynical people because I think it's so easy. I've never really been inspired by doubters. I think it's easy. I do think sky's the limit. You know, I think the sky's the limit, and you can create and do anything. And you know, certainly, if you look at the challenge of school dinners, and we got it on the radar, and yeah, we're still halfway through a journey, but I know we'll get there in 7 years' time. We will. And even with my students at 15, you know, I don't believe there's such thing as a bad kid. I just think that there's kids that have gone wrong, you know, and actually if you give them mentoring and goals, and they feel like they can achieve stuff, then they can start applying that to their life and think that they've got something they can offer. And you know, I'm in a really exciting time now, 7 years after 15 was created. We're in 3 countries and 4 restaurants, and I just actually employed one of our second-year students and appointed him as sous chef in Kingston restaurant, and sous chef is second in command. But actually, the sous chef's the one that does all the real graft. The head chef does more organising and management. So, to be able to do that in 5 years is great, And I think, I have a funny way of looking at stuff. Jame's world. It's a funny place.
All right, we're going to come back next and talk more about your life and career and whether you actually ever see a proper restaurant these days, because you're so busy being showbiz doing things like this, if you can call this show business. We'll be back next with Jame Oliver on your favourite local radio station. We're back on your favourite local radio station. It's Alex Belfield talking to Jame Oliver today. Just going back to your school years, did they try and encourage you to be better, or did they just sweep you to the side?
No, I went into special needs classes, which is about 4 kids that went up, had special extra classes and stuff. And yeah, my teachers were lovely. But I don't think that we were as strategically, as advanced as we are now. I think we're much better at it now. But also we didn't recognise dyslexia. It was like an on-off button. You're either dyslexic and you had to literally be looking through 2-inch glasses, or you're not. And I think, now we know that there's many forms of it, and I don't think I'm deeply held back by dyslexia, but I mean, undoubtedly I've got it. But, I think I was given all the support for the time. And it just wasn't my place to shine, really. I had a kid come up to me the other day, and you can't. Sometimes you read about stuff like this, but you don't exist that it's a real emotion. And this kid must have been about 10, and he came up to me and said, "I heard you're dyslexic." And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Have you ever felt that you're worth nothing?" And I'm like, "No. Why? Why do you think? Do you feel that?" And he's like, "Yeah." That's the stage when you got to start worrying, because it doesn't, being dyslexic or having any special needs is not an excuse or a reason for you to not prosper. It's just that you're not going to be good at the predictable things. But, there's wonderful people in business and architecture and art and music that have had learning difficulties. But I think what that kid was tapping into is that every single one of us need to feel like we're good at something. Otherwise we feel like and he obviously did. So I had a little pep talk with him anyway for sort of 10 minutes, and hopefully it made a difference. I told him to come and see me when he was 16. I said, "I'll give you a job." Really what I'm talking about is self-esteem, and that can be relevant to anyone regardless of dyslexia or not, really. But we all need a pat on the back every now and again, don't you? And it's like, half the time I do these Ministry of Food things, there are days, weeks and months when I feel physically sick every day, wondering what my mouth has got me in trouble for this time. I think deep down you can do these things that cause debate and problems if truly you feel that you're being honest and clear and fair, and that there's a genuine reason for expressing it. And I do. So therefore I hold my head high and I'm take anything you give me.
And you mentioned earlier the family business. Do you think that's where you got your encouragement from, the fact that it was a team game, and if you didn't pull your weight, it could go under and then you wouldn't have a home to live in, let alone a business to pay for your lifestyle?
Certainly that was the emotions that my dad taught to me, and my mum, and, whether it was cleaning the toilets or mopping the brass, polishing the brass, or picking up fag butts from out the front, changing the glasses, washing up, dishwashing, cleaning out the chimney, cleaning out the bins, sweeping the car park, breaking up the boxes and burning them, go to the market, fish market. I mean, my old man was a taskmaster, but I think, the point that he used to make is, like, you're never above doing anything. And actually all the best bosses that I've ever worked for have been the ones that taught through showing, not just saying. And that was my dad and Rose Gray and Ruth Rogers, Gennaro. They wouldn't just tell you to clean the floor or under the sink where all the crap gathers. They'd actually do it and say, do it like that. You got to be shown, haven't you?
All right, coming up next, we'll find out the first time you got in contact with a carrot and a cabbage and decided to cook something. We'll do it next on your favourite local radio station. We're back on your favourite local radio station with Jame Oliver. We found out about the school years. Maybe they didn't go as well as they could have, but then you found food. The cleaning stuff probably wasn't that enjoyable nor glamorous, but then you went into the kitchens and you discovered the art of cooking. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, about 8 I started cooking in the kitchen with the boys. It just felt like quite a physical place where the banter was. It was quite physical, smells. I wouldn't say I fell in love with food, but I fell in love with being one of the boys and being able to use a knife and be able to cook. And I did that as my weekend and summer holiday jobs for pocket money. And, I think I got quite good quite quick. And, I think I don't say that in a bullshit way. It's just that kids are good at stuff. You know, kids are really good at stuff. And you look what they can do dancing or on a BMX or do you know what I mean? Or football and stuff. I mean, they're incredible. And it's no different in cooking. I mean, and I use a knife as good now as I did when I was 12. But yeah, I kind of wangled my way into the kitchen from the wash-up. Sort of stayed there really, and as I was doing badly at school, I in my work experience, when I did my 2 weeks work experience or whatever it was in those days, 3 weeks, that came back A star, you know. And actually, one of the guys that was working in the restaurant that I went to work in left through slightly dodgy circumstances. So I was left as a 14-year-old to run that section, and actually, I actually ran it very easily. But I ran it because I knew the business well by then, because I'd already run sections in my own dad's place, and kind of got them out the shtuck for a couple of weeks while they found someone to replace. So my school results were coming in dodgy, and then my work experience was coming in like really good. So that was good. Then I thought, well, I quite like this. Maybe I'll stick to it.
And then you go on to be one of the world's best chefs. How does that happen? Because I think you've proved we can all cook, but we can't all necessarily cook brilliantly or to the standard where you're going to pay 100 quid for a meal.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the world's best cook. I don't even want to be the world's best cook. But I mean, I think I might be one of the world's best food lovers, and I'm a pretty damn good cook. But I wouldn't say I'm the best. But I mean, I think I don't look at cooking as a competition like that. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I find most inspiring is simple stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm as surprised as anyone that I'm sitting here doing this interview. You know, really. I mean, I think, you know, at the end of the day, sincerely, you know, when I was 21, I got found at 21 or 22 at the River Cafe, and the day that they were filming there, I wasn't even. That was my day off of the week, and I was brought in because someone was sick. And the only reason I went in is because, even though I was being told not to go in because I was supposed to be having a day off with the missus, I knew that when one man is down in the kitchen, that upsets the whole day for the whole team. So of course I went in because I came from a family business, and that was the day when they were filming. But until that point in time, honestly, I was more than sold and enthusiastic to go into an industry that would largely leave me fairly unwell off, and have long unsociable hours for the rest of my life. And why would I think anything other? Why would I presume that I'd go to number one in the book charts 2 years later? Bonkers, totally bonkers. What a journey. God, the last 10 years have just been like a roller coaster on acid.
What always amazes me about people like you is how hard you work. And to be a proper chef, it isn't just 8-hour days, it's 10, 12, 14, 16-hour days, as long as you want them to be. And what also fascinates me, at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're there preparing. And after we've left, having had our dinner at 11, you're still there cleaning up. It's a really horrible job, isn't it, if you take it at that level?
I think it's long hours and unsociable, but at the same time, I think, you know, it's a job not driven through commerce but through passion, really. I mean, I know lots of chefs that, like me, do it because they love it, and maybe one day they might have the honour of opening their own restaurant or being a head chef somewhere where they can express themselves like in a theatre, you know. I think that's the big thing. Absolutely, there's people that are there because they're lost and don't know what to do, and the industry gets a handful of those too. But I know a lot of people that earn a fortune in the city and hate it every single day of it, with a passion. And it allows them to do what they want in the rest of their life. But actually, for 14, 15 hours a day, they're miserable as sin. So, you know, I think everything's a balance, really. But I love it. I think it's brilliant. And yes, the hours are unsociable, but you can kind of be creative these days, I think. There's lots of different types of jobs in the industry. And if you've got a good boss, then they'll let you be creative about what you work, you know.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about the Ministry of Food, the new books in your stores now, and we'll talk about the TV years and why the ladies love you so much.
God.
We're back on your favourite local radio station talking to Jame Oliver today. It was kind of luck then that you got the TV career you've got. You weren't meant to be in, they saw you. So that's just down to personality, isn't it then? Somebody somewhere thought that you were great at what you did. You came across in a good way on camera. That's a lot of luck, isn't it?
Yeah, hell of a lot of luck.
You're a bit like Jay McDonald on The Cruise, aren't you?
Yeah. Basically, me and Jame got a lot in common. Now I make telly and understand it. I think that I can see why I was picked up now, because basically in 3 minutes I'd express quite a quick recipe very clearly, as well as being busy in the phonetics of a busy restaurant, you know. And I think, you know, the lessons to be learnt there is like, you know, it's quite easy to do a cooking recipe to camera and for it to go on for hours, and then once you edit it, it's still hours long, you know. So I can kind of see now why they picked up on it. I mean, in actual fact, it went out on the night when I was working as well, so I never saw it. And the next day, the phone started ringing, but they were largely from internal calls, taking the mickey, pretending to be the BBC and stuff. And then about 1 o'clock that day, the calls really did start from real people from, I think it was Granada in those days. I think the Beeb was in there. There was a couple of independents in there as well. So I had 4 people phone me up that day, and I told them all to shove their own head up their backsides. And I was more than rude because I thought it was my mates at work. And I'll never forget. And I spoke to a guy called Stephen Serby, who worked for Optimum Television in those days. I think he's at BBC Bristol now. And he was being all lovely and polite. And I told him to shove it. And he mentioned the word commission and pilot. And then I realised that I'd make a grave mistake. And I continued to grovel and apologise. But yeah, it all happened pretty quick. I mean, by the time I was 23, we had a best-selling book and a TV show that was getting, you know, 4 to 5.5 million viewers on BBC Two. Yeah, Gordon Bennett. You know, it was mental.
And how have you managed to keep your feet on the ground? I think it's so admirable that you don't do the lads' mags and all that rubbish and be seen kicked out of pubs on your backside. Is it because in those days in the beginning you were too busy to be showbiz?
I think my work effort has never changed since whether I was on telly or not. I've always worked the same sort of hours, 18 hours a day, worked as hard. Don't know, really. I think, you know, I've got good friends and family. I'd like to think I'm reasonably predictable, possibly even a bit well-behaved. I could probably do with being a bit less well-behaved, really. But most importantly, you know, I think, you know, what I've tried to build up over 10 years is trust, really. And there's nothing sexy about doing anything apart from important, fair work, really. So that's kind of why things like Jame's Kitchen with 15 and school dinners and Ministry of Food, I think, you know, they were never intended. You know, at points in time I felt they were important to express, and I still stand by that now.
And going back to the school days, how did you feel knowing that suddenly you'd become the star and you'd created something, regardless of how big that was? You were successful.
No, I mean, I think when you get out into the big wide world, relentlessness is what's required to go beyond your wildest dream. And I truly believe, you know, I know there's people that don't like me, and I know there's people that do like me because in a funny way, my relationship through books, I think books is quite an interesting one. Like, to flog a book's quite hard. I think it's a tough industry, and for people to pick it up and trust it is something to be, you know, worth protecting, I think. And really importantly, being honest and a good person, I think, has been the sort of cornerstone of what I've tried to do for 10 years, really, because in my game there's a lot of horrible people, and I've seen them build up and become amazing based on being quite rough and horrible. And actually, when it comes to coming down, those people aren't there to catch you. And I think, you know, it's never one person that does great stuff. And I can honestly say, like, all the great things that I've ever done, I could never have done on my own. I've got an office and a gang of people that work as relentlessly, and for me, but also for things they feel are important, really. I think I'm in good company. You know, I think that's the key, working with good people. You know, that's just absolutely... I think I try and think quite long term as well. I mean, I think, you know, things like, think about school dinners. I mean, I knew it would take, and I said on the programme it would take 13 years to fix it. And I think that's still about right. And we're reasonably on track, but I mean, we could be doing better. But we're pretty much on track. But it's just funny, isn't it, really? I mean, I think it's good times, really. But still freaky. I'm only just starting to pinch myself, actually, 10 years down the line.
I tell you when I realised you'd made it, and this might seem nothing to you, but I was over in New York last November, and there you were on David Letterman, making him laugh and doing your shtick with his shtick. And it was just so funny and original, and it really took me back to those original days of what you did on BBC Two, which was the refreshing something new Jamie Oliver. How does it feel for you when you're being flown out there to appear nationally in America because they love you?
Well, it's a massive compliment. You know, I think the bigger compliment is... basically, whenever I'm in New York, I can go on the show. I've been on there 9 times now, which is basically once a year for the last 9 years. I mean, we talk to each other like friends now rather than guests, host and presenter or whatever. And it's the same for Jay Leno and the same for Oprah and Martha. And I think, you know, what they don't want is someone that's duff and can't express on telly. So, you know, I go there, I do my job, I try and do it really, really well. and we hope for the best. And they kind of quite like the British lingo and stuff. But my heart's here in Great Britain, really. I'm deeply passionate and patriotic. I am. I think we've got a great country here. So that's kind of, the fact that I love it is partly the reason why I've always done these slightly controversial programmes that don't necessarily please everyone. Just got to do your job, really.
All right, we'll come back next with our remaining moments. And Graham wants to know, why does he need to use the F word? We'll be asking that question next to Jamie Oliver. We're back with our remaining moments with Jamie Oliver. I want to talk to you just about the TV thing again, especially when you're live or doing an Oprah or something like that. She's a big fan of yours. I saw that programme on Diva TV or something, and it's probably the most watched programme in America, and certainly if you're on there, you've made it. How do you deal with the fact that so many people are watching and it's so high profile and it's as big as you can get?
Try not to think about it, really. In the early days, I used to get nervous like everyone else and throw up and myself and everything. But after a while of doing that, you get fed up with it. And I did. I used to throw up all the time, through nerves, butterflies. I did it for about a year. If you look at all my original appearances, every presenter will say he's feeling a bit under the weather this morning, but he's here anyway, Jamie Oliver. And it was just like, I'd got so fed up with being nervous, to the point now where I don't care. Actually, the only person that's made me nervous in 10 years is Oprah. Because she's just operating on a different level. I mean, she's an incredible bird.
An incredible bird?
Yeah, she's amazing. And
she's bigger than the President of America, let's be honest.
Oh, God, yeah, definitely. I spent 8 weeks with her last year, and I just think that, sometimes, there's people that just work on a different level, and I think that often it's hard to relate as a normal person to someone on that level. I just think she's interesting because she don't have to do what she has to do. She could have retired 30 years ago, but she kind of feels like she's happy to retire when someone's going to replace her with the same values. And I think I found my time with her utterly inspiring.
And in the same way that you're doing now with the Ministry of Food, if she says something, people take it seriously and they'll do it. It's a great place to be, isn't it, when people care? Because there aren't many people in show business who people give a toss about their opinion.
I just think life is short. Often it's hard to read anything outside of your own world, and I think, every now and again it's quite nice to think big and think about, because I think, Oprah undoubtedly has made positive change to sort of America. And she's got lots of things against her. And I think, and I try and do the same things with my telly, although I don't have the reach, or equivalent reach to what she has. But undoubtedly there's a core group of people that are very, very loyal to the work that I do. I just think the fact that everyone can count is really important. And actually, in school dinners, it was the masses that made that government find that money. It wasn't just me. It was a team effort. So, hopefully, I don't know. I mean, it's not like I've got a load of boxes to tick off. I mean, I have nothing planned ever again, and certainly my family and friends and work colleagues do not want me to do another campaign, movement or documentary ever again. Why? Because it's a horror show. It's hard work. It's a pain in the backside. But the thing is, when I get the idea, I'll do it. When we did school dinners, the whole office shut down and became involved as central office of school dinners. Everyone, from the accountants to HR to the reception, we were all involved in school dinners, and they had no choice because I was the boss. Guys, this is what we're doing. And now, it must be like working for a lunatic. It must really be. But, when we pulled it off, I've never felt such a adrenaline and sense of achievement from every member of my staff felt like they contributed, and that's pretty mega, isn't it? Yeah, I've got nothing planned for the future, and certainly there's no impetus from any of my colleagues to get involved in anything, but when it comes and you can't help it.
And as for the people out there, the toffee-nosed lot who'll say he's become worthy and he's ranting and raving again, I noticed some sneering articles. Does that bother you, or does it just make you want to fight on even more?
The thing is, right, my voice and the kind of ripple effect that it creates actually sometimes mutates into things that I never said or did. So, everyone introduces me as the healthy chef, right? Well, I'm not I hate the word healthy. I think that is worthy. I've never certainly mentioned it, ever. But what I do is about proper food, real food. I'm not anti-fast food or junk food. I just think that there's, everything in moderation. So I think actually if most people knew me properly, I truly think that the stuff that I do is relevant and can tap into lots of people's sensibilities. But the thing is, obviously, once it's been passed down the Chinese whispers a couple of times, people think that I am worthy, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't do these things for, like, critical acclaim. Everything that I've ever done that's actually gone well could have equally gone bonkers wrong. They're never a pleasure to make. It's not an easy ride, So I don't know. I just go with me heart, really, mate. I certainly don't care what anyone else thinks. It's nice when it works, but I mean, I think if you listen to everyone else on the periphery, then it confuses you. And I'm deeply paranoid about not being fair, and I think that's a good and rightful paranoia to have. But I think you have to be single-minded about stuff. I mean, honestly, when I did 15 and set that up with all of my life savings at that point, my own father, my business advisor, friends told me not to do it, so I had to be pretty strong to do it anyway, or arrogant, I'm not sure. Probably a bit of both. Maybe I'll have a nice quiet 40s to 60s. You'll see me on an island somewhere, sipping on gin and juice.
And having watched the school programmes, I mean, it does go over into your private life, and that's such a brave thing to do, because you don't need to do it. Congratulations on that. And also the new baby. How do you feel about that?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. But I've got a great wife, I mean, she puts up with a lot, but also I need her. I need her to approve in what I'm doing. I need her to be in support of what I'm doing. If she didn't support me, I wouldn't do them. And I think... look, I'm biased, I know, but I think the world's a better place for me doing them, or could be a better place one day. What I do will amount to something eventually that is a positive, important part of, like, British food culture. But, I mean, like, she's great. She's very patient. Yeah, she could do with a little pat on the back as well, actually. I was going to say give her one tonight. I can't say that.
Oh, feel free.
Yeah, I think I've already done enough of that. It got me in trouble again last time.
Any more of them, or is this the final baby? Would you like 12 babies or something?
Listen, when you are a walking sort of sexual, testosterone-driven, love-making machine, you can't... I'm only human. I cannot box myself in just to one bunk up. I am relentless in the effort that I put in to producing multiple.
I mean, you've got a lot to give, and you should give it. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe 30 or 40 children.
Anyone for semen? Anyone? Listen, forgive me, I'm talking rubbish.
I've done it for 35 minutes. Why should we stop now?
I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, at the end of the day, my wife controls the birth control in the house. You don't get involved with that at all?
Look,
I am merely a source of the seed. And,
well, you're the man's man.
If the seed can't be planted, then it won't be allowed to get anywhere near the mud, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
These analogies, I'm losing the will to live, I think.
It's been a long day.
Thank you, Jamie. Really thanks for talking to us, because you're a top man and your intentions are so honourable. That's so nice. And good luck with this new book, The Ministry of Food. Your intentions are so good that you care about people.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm very lucky. I think, it's never ever light or shade. It's always both. I think you just got to crack on and be positive, really.
Congratulations on being you. I'm going to let you go now, because you must go and make some more babies. Jamie Oliver, thanks for talking to me.
Thank you very much.